Last week's fatal stabbing of this young Ukrainian man, Vadym Davydenko, aged 17, in Dublin, by what we now know is a Somalian youth. At least we're being told he's a youth. There's been no photographs, no evidence that this is a youth, just going by what the mainstream media have been reporting, in a care facility ran or at least overseen by Tusla, Child Protection Services in Ireland, via a subcontractor with links to the Middle East. Nothing is straightforward. And although questions are being answered in relation to this case, it keeps throwing up more questions. So the update as per this morning is that a youth aged 17 is charged with the murder of a Ukrainian teen in a Dublin emergency care unit. And this is the deceased Ukrainian here, Vadym Davydenko, 17-year-old Somalian boy, has been remanded in custody, charged with the murder at an emergency Tusla residential care unit in North Dublin. This is a unit within an apartment complex inhabited by Irish families, at least some Irish families and their children, causing massive disruption for them last week. And interestingly, this photograph we see here is of the Ukrainian who's just apparently graduated high school. Just graduated high school. I'm assuming this photograph is taken maybe with some of his school colleagues. I don't know. But anyway, he's just graduated high school and then immediately leaves Ukraine, ends up in Dublin. He's been there for a few days and then he's knifed by the Somalian. And apparently he left Ukraine for a better life, to find peace and safety. But he had just graduated high school. And apparently his parents, his family, and he had a girlfriend back in Ukraine. They have all been notified and they're distraught. But he left there apparently to find safety and peace, even though his girlfriend, his family, and his schoolmates are all behind. He lands in Ireland. He ends up in residential accommodation with 24-hour care in Dublin. And the question has to be asked, how many Irish families are on waiting lists and being told we can't give you any care, you have to go to emergency accommodation, you have to live in suboptimal conditions with your family, with your children, because we've nowhere to put you. Vadym was stabbed during an incident about 11 a.m. last Wednesday, and I've read reports that this was over food. They were arguing or fighting over food. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Some other people have speculated maybe he was eating non-halal food and the Somalian took an offense to that. I don't know. But what I do know is that the attack on this young man was exceptionally savage. He was stabbed over 100 times. Over 100 times. By a Somalian who also has just landed in Ireland and bagged himself a nice apartment with 24-hour care, courtesy of the Irish taxpayer. He had been placed in that accommodation alongside other young people, separated from their families and seeking international protection. This guy wasn't separated from his family. This guy left his family. Okay, he left his family, he left his girlfriend, and he came here. Sadly, he's now deceased, but seeking international protection. The teenager who had recently graduated high school, there you have it, in Kyiv. Well, if he's graduated from high school, I'm assuming that the risk where he was in his high school in Kyiv was not necessarily an imminent risk if he's going to school with all his school friends and graduating from high school. But either way, he came to Ireland, arrived 3 days before he was fatally injured. Gardaí responded to calls for assistance, and of course, the assailant, the stabber, had to be subdued initially by unarmed Gardaí before the armed response unit came and carted him away. That young lad from Ukraine would have turned 18 in November, but was pronounced deceased at the scene. So this is being, the investigation is being coordinated out of Coolock Garda Station. The accused was hospitalized after sustaining non-life-threatening injuries to his hands. Of course, he was taken straight to hospital. Of course, he was given immediate surgery or emergency care. Why not? How many people did he bypass that were sitting in accident and emergency? How many people did he bypass that are on waiting lists for surgery? He was later charged with murder in connection with the incident. The accused, who cannot be named because he's a minor with a legal right to anonymity, really, was brought before Judge Teresa Kelly Saturday night. He was charged earlier that day at Clontarf Garda Station. Listen to this. Barefoot and dressed in a black sweater and grey tracksuit bottoms, the teenager sat at the side of the courtrooms flanked by 7 Gardaí in helmets and protective gear. That's how much of a risk they view this rodent to be. 7 Gardaí, 7 assigned to this. 7. You talk about people need to police the streets. The Gardaí aren't being policing, community policing. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. No, they're tooled up. They're kitted up, sitting in a courtroom, overseeing some Somalian reprobate on a Saturday night. And why had he no shoes on? Couldn't find him a pair of shoes or slippers or something to put on his feet. He listened to the proceedings with the aid of an interpreter. Yeah, doesn't speak English. Of course, he doesn't speak English. So therefore, of course, then that expense is passed on to the Irish taxpayer too. He mumbled throughout the hearing. I'm sure he did. Detective Sergeant Quill told the judge the boy made no reply in the presence of a social worker and interpreter. More expense, more expense, more expense. There's people sitting outside the Dáil today. Four people are protesting, survivors of Ireland's institutional, industrial and reform schools. All they want is a medical card and a full non-contributory pension or full contributory pension, the cost of which would be about €30 a week each. They're starving themselves out there while this gets emergency accommodation, urgent care, an interpreter, a social worker, an apartment in Dublin, just arriving from Somalia. Defence solicitor confirmed that Tusla's social worker and court-appointed guardian ad litem had attended the hearing as responsible adults. So another 2 people. The Children's Act states that a parent or guardian must attend juvenile criminal cases. Well, I would say if our little stabby friend was big enough and bold enough to commit the vicious attack that he did, the teenager should appear in person rather than video link. A place has been confirmed available at a juvenile detention centre. What are they going to do? They should lock him in a hole. If it takes 7 Gardaí who are all kitted up in protective gear and helmets to sit around this thug in the court, they're going to stick him into a juvenile detention facility with young people after what he's already done to a 17-year-old. Mr. Walsh was granted an order that his client receive urgent psychiatric and medical attention in custody. Psychiatric attention as well as medical. A straitjacket, padded cell, and Thorazine, that'll do the job. Keep him locked in a padded cell and a straitjacket and keep injecting him with Thorazine until he appears again, and then deport his miserable ass out of the country and throw him straight back to Mogadishu from whence he came. The order the judge could make was to remand him in custody to the Oberstown Children's Detention Campus in Dublin. I would make sure that the other kids, children in that facility are well briefed on who's coming to join them. Sergeant confirmed there was a place available to hold the teenager. Cage would be fine. The boy has yet to indicate a plan. Will face his next hearing at the Children's Court tomorrow, Tuesday. Mr. Walsh asked the teenager would appear in person rather than via video link, and of course with a Somalian interpreter. So, as expected, more is unraveling around this story, but I would say there's an awful lot about it that they want to keep buried. So, what do you think about this? Leave me your thoughts, comments, and opinions below. This case, like the Valentine's Day attack that happened in Dublin, Kassam Babatunde, even remember his name. You remember that? Turned out he was a Nigerian fleeing from an assault case in Italy, ended up in Dublin, tried to get work as a security guard, staying in an iPass center, and then 6 or 7 other, let's just say, non-locals were arrested in connection with that case as well. Fatal stabbing outside a nightclub. But anyway, more and more appeared, and then where's that one now? You never hear it mentioned again. Comment below, share this content, let people know what's happening, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. If you're a listener but you're not a subscriber, just hit the subscribe button and the notification button. It helps. So for now, I'm Rick Munn. This is No Risk, No Reward Media, over and out.